the legacy of Cain. I will be combining the Book of Enoch, and the books of the Apocrypha, in full chronicle order, following the only bloodline that connects the Book of Enoch with the Apocrypha books. I will be swapping between the books, to keep in chronicle order of events, and I will stick with context, that is astrology, and the narrative of the story. But first I will say a disclaimer: I use the best sources, and I will prove my sources are genuine and correct. Then let's begin right from the very start, the time and history itself, before the Great Flood. Thank you. Entirely founded upon Dr. Westcott and Hort's critically accurate Greek text, and with all weak or faulty renderings corrected. To it the translator has added critical notes, to passages seeming to require them, and he hopes they may be of use to his readers. During its progress this work has been approved by Dr. Date, Archbishop of Canterbury, Dr. Benson, Archbishop of Canterbury, Professor J.S. Blackie, of Edinburgh University, Professor Oliver Wendell Holmes, of Boston, USA. Professor C. A. L. Totten, of Yale University, USA, the Very Reverend D. Plumptre, D.D. Dean of Wells. The Reverend H. S. Champneys, Rector of Epistone, the Reverend J. Bowen, B. D. Rector of St. Lawrence, Pembroke Keshub Chunder Sen, Calcutta, India, the Reverend H. Stretton, Vicar of Eastville, Lines, the Reverend Charles Garrett, ex-president of the Wesleyan Conference, the Reverend J. Davis, D.D. Ontario, Canada, and numerous others, who urged the translator to complete his work by a version of the whole Bible on the same plan, which he has now accomplished, by the help of God. So, approved by the Archbishop of Canterbury, Professor J.S. Blackie, and Archbishop of Canterbury Dr. Benson. The Dead Sea Scrolls. I will put the texts up very large so you can understand how corrupted the King James Bible and modern Bibles as a whole. Genesis. God then said, "Let us make men under our shadow, as our representatives, and subject to them the fish of the waters and the birds of the sky, and the quadrupeds, as well as the whole of the earth, and every reptile that creeps upon it." So God created men under his own shadow, creating them in the shadow of God, and constituting them male and female. God then gave them his blessing. The ever-living God afterwards formed man from the dust of the ground, and breathed into his nostrils the life of animals, but man became a life-containing soul. The ever-living God then planted a garden in Eden, in the east, and there he placed the man whom he had formed. And out of the ground the ever-living God caused to grow all the trees that were beautiful and good for food, as well as the tree of lives in the center of the garden, and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Therefore the ever-living God, who had formed out of the ground every animal of the field as well as every bird of the skies, took them to the man to see what he would name them. And whatever the man, with the living soul, called them, that was their name. So the man gave names to all the quadrupeds, and all the birds of the skies, and to all the wild animals. Typology. 1. Let us make men under our shadow, as our representatives, creating them in the shadow of God, and constituting them male and female. 2. The ever-living God afterwards formed man from the dust of the ground, and breathed into his nostrils the life of animals, but man became a life-containing soul. The Sumerian king list. Of the 23 kings of Kish who reigned after the flood, all but 2 are preserved, with the exception of the 5th and 6th names, which are partially preserved. The lengths of their reigns are naturally mythical, and the huge total of 24,510 years 3 months and 3 days is probably due to an astronomical calculation of the so-called world year, or period of 25,920 years of the sun's apparent revolution through the 12 signs of the zodiac. The precession of the equinoxes, or slow motion of the Earth's axis, in consequence of which the intersection of the equator with the ecliptic travels along the latter at the rate of 1 degree in 72 years, causes this apparent revolution of the Sun. It is difficult to discover any similar computation in the figures given. That is around 2,160 years for each zodiacal age. In the foregoing table I have subjected the actual figures of the prism to severe reduction anterior to the date of the beginning of the Second Kingdom of 3357, which is reached by dead reckoning, assuming that Kabor was contemporary with the exact kingdom, and allowing for some obvious mathematical inaccuracies. If we accept the actual figures of the prism, the first king after the flood ruled 34,685 BC. The first ruler of Ur began to reign 10,175 BC. The second kingdom of Kish began in 7,332 and Harmasi seized the hegemony in 4,137 BC. It is impossible to give credence to these figures, at any rate before 4,137 for Harmasi, and I have assigned dates to the period before 3,357 entirely on grounds of epigraphy and archaeology. If we allow for the omission of the last two kings before the flood by accepting the figures on WB 62, and add 64,800 for these two kings, the prism, WB 444, places the first ruler of mankind 340,685 BC. WB 62 would yield 490,685 for the beginning of mankind, and Berosus's figures would be 466,685 BC. Are these figures mere tradition, or is the early Sumerian civilization to be assigned to such remote periods before 10,000 BC? Chinese and Indian tradition used the figures of Berosus for the prehistoric age of man. From a Chinese source of the 8th century AD, Edward Charvan cites a passage which assigns 432,000 years to the age of the 13 kings of heaven and the 11 kings of earth. The Indian period Kali Yuga corresponds exactly to the figures of Berosus. See ed. Charvan, Les Memoires Historiques de Sai Martian, Volume 1, page 18. The reference I owe to Professor Soothhill. At any rate we now know that, by consensus of all their traditions, the Sumerians believed the flood to have occurred about 35,000 BC, and that great kingdoms flourished long before 6,000 BC. Rulership which from heaven descended. Atredu rulership began. Atredu-ul-Ulim was king. He ruled 28,800 years. Alagar ruled 36,000 years. Two kings. 64,800 years they ruled. Aridu was overthrown. The rulership to Bad Tiberu passed. At Bad Tiberu in Munlu Anna ruled 43,200 years. In Mongol Anna ruled 28,800 years. Dumuzizi ruled 36,000 years. Three kings. They ruled 108,000 years. Bad Tiberu was overthrown. The rulership was established at Larak. At Larak Ensibziana ruled 28,800 years. One king. He ruled 28,800 years. Larak was overthrown. The rulership passed to Sippar. At Sippar Enmendurana was king and ruled 21,000 years. One king. He ruled 21,000 years. Sippar was overthrown. The rulership was established at Shurapak. At Shurapak Ubadadu was king and ruled 18,600 years. One king. He ruled 18,600 years. Five cities, 8 kings. They ruled 241.200 years. The deluge came upon the land. After the deluge had come, the rulership which descended from heaven. At Kish there was the rulership. At Kishga became king. He ruled 1,200 years. Gulanidabuana, Ubadadu was king of the flood, 35,000 BC. So, let's look at the world dates. 1. The the beginning of mankind 466,685 BC, 126,000 of the Golden Age. 2. The first ruler of mankind 340,685 BC. 3. Flood around 35,000 BC. 4. The first king after the flood ruled 34,685 BC. 5. Also means, the date of Noah has to be 35,000 BC. 6. And also means Nimrod first king after the flood has to be 34,685 BC. 8. But this would mean, Nimrod is already 415 years old. 9. Egypt, Assyria and Babylon would all have to be founded within a 20 or 30 years of 34,685 BC. When you have dates before you on astronomical scales, it's easy to understand why nothing will ever make sense, no matter the faith, the belief and the assumptions. The internet and YouTube is useless for genuine information, thus, always go to the source. But let's roll with the numbers. Typology, allegory, understanding Satan's hosts. I will explain both my knowledge of the occult and astrology to you, and also show you and explain the stars and planetary movements during or the moments before the flood around 35,000 BC, so please be patient. First, the house of the sun was in Leo, and that of the moon in Cancer. Each other planet had two signs, Mercury, Gemini and Virgo, Venus, Taurus and Libra, Mars, Aries and Scorpio, Jupiter, Pisces and Sagittarius, Saturn, Aquarius and Capricornus. 22nd degree, Knight of the Royal Axe, or Prince of Libanus Gemini, twins who presided over the oracles of Didymus. These two divinities, the active and passive principles of the universe, were commonly symbolized by the generative parts of man and woman, to which in remote ages, no idea of indecency was attached, the phallus and clitoris, emblems of generation and production, and which, as such, appeared in the mysteries. The Indian lingam was the union of both, as were the boat and mast, and the point within a circle, all of which expressed the same philosophical idea as to the union of the two great causes of nature, which concur, one actively and the other passively, in the generation of all beings, which was symbolized by what we now term Gemini, the twins, at that remote period when the sun was in that sign at the vernal equinox, and when they were male and female, and of which the phallus was perhaps taken from the generative organ of the bull, when about 2,500 years before our era opened that equinox, and became to the ancient world the symbol of the creative and generative power. Capricious, the oldest notion of deity was rather indefinite than repulsive, the positive degradation was of later growth. The god of nature reflects the changeful character of the seasons, varying from dark to bright, alternately angry and serene, and lavishing abundance which she again withdraws. Nature seems inexplicably capricious, and though capable of responding to the highest requisitions of the moral sentiment through a general comprehension of her mysteries, more liable by a partial or hasty view to become darkened into a Shiva, a Saturn or a Mexitli, a patron of fierce orgies, or blood-stained altars. All the older poetical personifications exhibit traces of this ambiguity. They are neither wholly moral nor purely beneficent. Sagittarius, in the spring, the serpent, rising heliacally at the autumnal equinox, besetting with poisonous influence, the cold constellation, Sagittarius, the same serpent, the Oanaphronos or Musaros, of Syncelus, was the midged serpent which Odin sunk beneath the sea, but which grew to such a size as to encircle the whole earth. Libra, over Libra, the sign through which souls were said to descend or fall, is found, on the celestial globe, the serpent, grasped by Serpentarius, the serpent-bearer. The head of the reptile is under Corona Borealis, the northern crown, called by Ovid, Libera, or Proserpine, and the two constellations rise, with the balance, after the Virgin, or Isis, whose feet rest on the eastern horizon at sunrise on the day of the equinox. As the serpent extend over both signs, Libra and Scorpio, it has been the gate through which souls descend, during the whole time that those two signs in succession marked the autumnal equinox. Aquarius, spirit of which he is emphatically the perfecter, a consummation which he effects, first through the vicissitudes of the elemental ordeal, the alternate fire of summer and showers of winter, the trials or tests of an immortal nature, and secondarily, and symbolically, through the mysteries. He holds not only the cup of generation, but also that of wisdom, or initiation, whose influence is contrary to that of the former, causing the soul to abhor its material bonds, and to long for its return. The first was the cup of forgetfulness, while the second is the urn of Aquarius, quaffed by the returning spirit, as by the returning sun at the winter solstice, and emblematic of the exchange of worldly impressions for the recovered recollection of the glorious sights and enjoyments of its pre-existence. Water nourishes and purifies, and the urn from which it flows was thought worthy to be a symbol of the deity. Typology, allegory. As we have a date of the Great Flood, I will check the stars, 35,000 BC. The wheat gate, the solstice, the sun sets, directly in the middle of Libra Scorpius Sagittarius Orpheus, the messengers rise in Sagittarius Capricorns Aquarius, the moon passes Sagittarius Scorpius Ophiuchus, the west gate, the equinox, the sun sets in Aquarius, the messengers rise in Pisces Aries Taurus, the moon passes Aquarius Pisces Capricornus, the west gate, the sun sets in Taurus, the messengers rise in Taurus Gemini Cancer, the west gate, Cancer Leo Virgo Capricornus, the east gate, the solstice the rises Leo, the messengers rise in Virgo Libra Scorpius, with Orpheus Serpent Bearer North, the moon passes Orion Taurus Gemini Auriga. And his hosts said to him, Power is yours, our master, to do what you command. Then Satan, great in wickedness. After this Satan called to his hosts, all of which came to him, and said to him, Our master, what will you do? Then he said to them, This Adam, whom Elohim created out of the dust, is the one who has taken our reign from us. Come, let us gather together and kill him. Hurl a rock at him and at Hawa, and crush them under it. Remember, I am sticking to the context of the Apocrypha, and the Book of Enoch. Satan has complete control of the messengers, the zodiacal constellations, and the planets, and all negative aspects of their full influences. The sun sets directly in the middle of Libra Scorpius Sagittarius Orpheus, the negative aspects of the planets. The moon, the faculty of increase and diminution of the body, to Mercury, fraud, the architect of evils, to Venus, the seductive law of pleasure, to the sun, the passion for greatness and empire, to Mars, audacity and temerity, to Jupiter, avarice, and to Saturn, falsehood and deceit. 1. Aquarius, he holds not only the cup of generation, but also that of wisdom, or initiation, whose influence is contrary to that of the former, the cup of forgetfulness. 2. Libra, the sign through which souls were said to descend or fall. 3. Sagittarius, besetting with poisonous influence. 4. Capricornus, liable by a partial or hasty view to become darkened into a Shiva, a patron of fierce orgies, or blood-stained altars. 5. Gemini, twins who presided over the oracles of Didymus, these two divinities, the active and passive principles of the universe, symbolized by the generative parts of man and woman, the phallus. So, to help you understand, I will give an example. If Saturn and Venus rise in Capricornus, then that means seductive pleasure, falsehood, deceit, with fierce orgies, and blood-stained altars. Are you understanding the many ways things can get little out of hand? And Adam and Hawa continued in great grief by the burial site for 140 days. Abel was 15.5 years old, and Cain 17.5 years. When the mourning for his brother was ended, Cain took his sister Luluwa, and married her, without permission from his father and mother. Because of their heavy hearts they could not keep him from her. He then went down to the foot of the mountain, away from the garden, near the place where he had killed his brother. And in that place were many fruit trees and forest trees. His sister gave birth to his children, who in their turn began to multiply by degrees until they filled that place, after Cain had gone down to the land of dark soil, and his children had multiplied. There was one of them, whose name was Jenon, son of Lamech the blind, who slew Cain. Satan came to Jenon in his childhood and made a variety of trumpets and horns, and string instruments, cymbals and psalteries, and lyres and harps, and flutes. And Jenon played them at all times and at every hour. And when he played them, Satan came to them, so that from among them were heard beautiful and sweet sounds that seized the heart with delight. Typology, allegory, trumpets and horns, and string instruments, cymbals and psalteries, and lyres and harps, and flutes, were heard beautiful and sweet sounds that seized the heart with delight. The Lyra constellation represents the lyre of Orpheus, the musician and poet in Greek mythology. Orpheus was known for his ability to charm even stones with his music, Orpheus the serpent-bearer. Then he gathered many crowds to play on them, and when they played it greatly pleased the children of Cain, who fanned themselves to flames of sin among themselves, and they burned with fire while Satan enflamed their hearts with one another, and lust increased among them. Satan also taught Jenon to make strong drink out of corn. Jenon used this to bring together crowd upon crowd in houses of drink, and brought into their hands all kinds of fruits and flowers, and they drank together. Typology, Satan also taught Jenon to make strong drink out of corn. Diodorus speaks of the famous columns erected near Nizar, in Arabia, where, it was said, were two of the tombs of Osiris and Isis. On one was this inscription: I am Isis, queen of this country. I was instructed by Mercury, no one can destroy the laws which I have established. I am the eldest daughter of Saturn, most ancient of the gods. I am the wife and sister of Osiris the king. I first made known to mortals the use of wheat. I am the mother of Horus the king. In my honor was the city of Bubast built. Rejoice, O Egypt, rejoice, land that gave me birth. And on the other was this: I am Osiris the king, who led my armies into all parts of the world, to the most thickly inhabited countries of India, the north, the Danube, and the ocean. I am the eldest son of Saturn. I was born of the brilliant and magnificent egg, and my substance is of the same nature as that which composes light. There is no place in the universe where I have not appeared, to bestow my benefits and make known my discoveries. The rest was illegible, to aid her in the search for the body of Osiris, and to nurse her infant child horns. Isis sought out and took with her Anubis, son of Osiris, and his sister Nephte. He, as we have said, was Sirius, the brightest star in the heavens. After finding him, she went to Byblos, and seated herself near a fountain, where she had learned that the sacred chest had stopped which contained the body of Osiris. 1. I am Osiris the king. I am the eldest son of Saturn, who led my armies into all parts of the world. 2. I am Isis, queen of this country. I am the eldest daughter of Saturn, most ancient of the gods. I was instructed by Mercury. I first made known to mortals the use of wheat. 3. Mercury, Hermes, Thoth. Jenon did this to multiply sin greatly. He also acted with pride, and taught the children of Cain to commit all manner of the grossest wickedness, which they did not know until then. And he put them up to all kinds of deeds, which they did not know of before. Then, when Satan saw that they obeyed Jenon and listened to him in everything he told them, he rejoiced greatly, and he increased Jenon's understanding until he took iron and with it made weapons of war. 25th degree, Night of the Brazen Serpent. We learn this from Celsus, in Origin, who says that the symbolic image of this passage among the stars, need in the Mithrine mysteries, was a ladder, reaching from earth to heaven, divided into 7 steps or stages, to each of which was a gate, and at the summit an 8th. That of the fixed stars, the first gate, says Celsus, was that of Saturn, and of lead, by the heavy nature whereof his dull slow progress was symbolized. The second, of tin, was that of Venus, symbolizing her soft splendor and easy flexibility. The third, of brass, was that of Jupiter, emblem of his solidity and dry nature. The fourth, of iron, was that of Mercury, expressing his indefatigable activity and sagacity. The fifth, of copper, was that of Mars, expressive of his inequalities and variable nature. The sixth, of silver, was that of the moon, and the seventh, of gold, that of the sun. Enoch 52:5. And that messenger of peace answered, saying unto me, Wait a little, and there shall be revealed unto you all the secret matters which surround Most High of Hosts. And these mountains, which your eyes have seen, the mountain of iron, and the mountain of copper, and the mountain of silver, and the mountain of gold, and the mountain of soft metal, and the mountain of lead, all these shall be in the presence of the elect one as wax before the fire, and like the water which streams down from above, and they shall become powerless before his feet. And it shall come to be in those days that none shall be saved, either by gold or by silver, and none be able to escape. And there shall be no iron for war, nor shall one clothe oneself with a breastplate. Bronze shall be of no service, and tin shall not be steamed, and lead shall not be desired. 32nd degree, Sublime Prince of the Royal Secret. Which colors were anciently assigned to the several planets, as follows: white, to the moon; yellow, to the sun; blue, to Jupiter; black, to Saturn; green, to Venus; purple, to Mercury; and crimson, to Mars. Enoch 98:2. For you men shall put on more adornments than a woman, and more colored garments than a maiden, in royalty and in splendor and in power, and in silver and in gold and in purple, and in splendor and in food they shall be poured out as water. Therefore they shall be lacking in instruction, and wisdom, and they shall perish thereby together with their possessions and with all their esteem and their splendor, and in shame and in slaughter and in great destitution, their spirits shall be cast into the furnace of fire. 22nd degree, Knight of the Royal Axe, or Prince of Libanus. The candlestick with 7 branches, upon the apron, represents what were anciently known as the 7 planets or principal heavenly bodies: Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, the Sun, Moon, Venus and Mercury, and the 7 angels that the Hebrews assigned to their government: to Saturn, Michael; to Jupiter, Gabriel; to Mars, Uriel; to the Sun, Zerachiel; to the Moon, Sophiel; to Venus, Hamaliel; and to Mercury, Raphael, signifying, in Hebrew, respectively, the semblance, the strength, the fire, the rising, the messenger, the mercy and the healing, of El, the great Semitic god of the ancient patriarchs, as to whom and these planets and angels, and their connection with Masonry, you will be more fully instructed as you advance. And as Azazel taught men to make swords, and knives, and shields, and breastplates, and made known to them the metals of the earth and the art of working them, and bracelets, and ornaments, and the use of antimony, and the adorning of the eyelids, and all kinds of costly stones, and all coloring tinctures. Then when they were drunk, hatred and murder increased among them. One man would use violence against another and Satan would teach him evil, in that one man would take the other man's children and defile them before him. And when men saw they were vanquished and saw that others were not beaten, those who were beaten came to Jinan and took refuge with him, and he made them part of his group. Then sin increased among them greatly, until a man married his own sister, or daughter, or mother, and others, or the daughter of his father's sister, so that there was no more distinction of relationship, and they could no longer discern what was sin and what was not, but always were wicked, and the earth was defiled with sin. And they angered Elohim the judge, who had created them. But Jinan gathered together groups and groups, that played on horns and on all the other instruments we have already mentioned, at the foot of the Kodesh. Typology, allegory, in the occult, instruments, are the zodiacal constellations, the instruments used for its astrology. 12th degree, Grand Master Architect. The hangings are white, strewed with crimson flames. Behind the master, in the east, are 5 columns, each of a different order of architecture: Tuscan, Doric, Ionic, Corinthian and Composite. In the north, is painted the North Star, and a little below it the 7 stars, of the Great Bear. In the heat, behind the columns, is a luminous star, representing Jupiter, rising in the east, as the morning star. Upon the altar, which is in the center of the room, are the Holy Bible, and on it all the instruments, contained in a cane, of mathematical instruments. The chapter is lighted by 3 great lights, one in the east, one in the west, and one in the south. Over the columns, in the east, hangs a triangle, enclosing the word, Adonis. They did that so the children of Sheth who were on the Kodesh mountain would hear it. But when the children of Sheth heard the noise, they wandered, and came by companies, and stood on the top of the mountain to look at those below. This went on an entire year. At the end of that year, Jinan saw that they were being won over to him little by little. Satan entered into him, and taught him to make the elements for dyeing garments of various patterns, and made him understand how to dye crimson and purple and what not. And the sons of Cain who worked at all of this shone in beauty and gorgeous apparel. And they gathered together at the foot of the mountain in splendor, with horns, and gorgeous dresses, and horse races, and they were committing all manner of disgusting acts. Meanwhile the children of Sheth, who were on the Kodesh mountain, prayed and praised Elohim in the place of the hosts of messengers who had fallen. Elohim had called them messengers, because he rejoiced over them greatly. But after this time they no longer kept his commandment, nor were held by the promise he had made to their fathers. But they relaxed from their fasting and praying, and from the counsel of Yahweh their father. And they kept on gathering together on the top of the mountain to watch the children of Cain, from morning until evening. And they watched what they did, and they looked at their beautiful dresses and ornaments. Then the children of Cain looked up from below, and saw the children of Sheth, standing in numbers on the top of the mountain, and they called to them to come down to them. But from above them, the children of Sheth said, "We don't know the way." Then Jinan, the son of Lamech, heard them say they did not know the way, and he began to think to himself of ways he might bring them down. Then Satan appeared to him by night, saying, "There is no way for them to come down from the part of the mountain on which they live, but when they come out tomorrow, say to them, come to the western side of the mountain. For you will find a stream of water that comes down to the foot of the mountain, between 2 hills. That marks the way. Come down that way to us. The west side of the Kodesh mountain." Then when it was day, Jinan blew the horns and beat the drums below the mountain, as he was accustomed to do. The children of Sheth heard it and came as they used to do. Then Jinan said to them from down below, "Go to the western side of the mountain, for you will find the way to come down." But when the children of Sheth heard these words from him, they went back into the cave to Yahweh to tell him all they had heard. Then when Yahweh heard it, he was grieved because he knew that they would defy his wishes. After this 100 men of the children of Sheth gathered together and said among themselves, "Come, let us go down to the children of Cain and see what they do, and enjoy ourselves with them. But when Yaad heard this of the 100 men, his very soul was moved, and his heart was grieved. He then stood with great emotion in the middle of them, and earnestly compelled them by the blood of Hebel the just, and said, Let no one of you go down from this Kodesh and pure mountain, in which our fathers have ordered us to live. But when Yaad saw that they did not listen to his words, he said to them, My good, innocent, and Kodesh children, you must understand that once you go down from this Kodesh mountain, Elohim will not allow you to return to it again. He again adjured them, saying, I plead with you by the death of our father Adam, and by the blood of Hebel, of Sheth, of Enosh, of Canaan, and of Mahalalel, to listen to me. Do not go down from this Kodesh mountain, because the moment you leave it, life and mercy will be taken from you, and you shall no longer be called a children of Elohim, but a children of the devil. But they would not listen to his words. Enoch was already grown up at that time, and in his zeal for Elohim, he stood and said, Hear me, you large and small sons of Sheth. When you transgress the commandment of our fathers and go down from this Kodesh mountain, you shall not come up here again forever. But they rose up against Enoch and would not listen to his words, but they went down from the Kodesh mountain. And it came to be, when the children of men had multiplied, that in those days were born unto them good-looking and lovely daughters. And the messengers, the children of the Shemaim, saw and lusted after them, and said to one another, Come, let us choose us wives from among the children of men and bring forth children. And Shemyatsar, who was their leader, said unto them, I fear you will not indeed agree to do this deed, and I alone shall have to pay the penalty of a great sin. And they all answered him and said, Let us all swear an oath, and all bind ourselves by mutual curses not to abandon this plan but to do this matter. Then they all swore together and bound themselves by mutual curses upon it. And they were, in all, 200 who descended in the days of Yaad on the summit of Mount Hermon, and they called it Mount Hermon, because they had sworn and bound themselves by mutual curses upon it. And these are the names of their leaders: Shem-Latsatz, their leader, Arakilba, Ramuel, Kokabuel, Tamaluel, Ramaluel, Danuel, Yeskuel, Barakuel, Asael, Amaros, Bataruel, Ananoel, Sakluel, Shmshapuel, Sataruel, Juriuel, Yamuel, Sariuel. These are their chiefs of tens. And all the others together with them took unto themselves wives, and each chose one for himself. And they began to go in unto them and to defile themselves with them, and they taught them charms and enchantments, and the cutting of roots, and made them to know plants. And they became pregnant, and they brought forth great giants, whose height was 3,000 ells. 1. And their cutting of roots, and made them to know plants. 2. And they became pregnant. 3. Great giants, whose height was 3,000 ells, are obviously the constellations. Bingo. We have a set time and also a location. 1. And they were, in all, 200 who descended in the days of Yaad on the summit of Mount Hermon. 2. In the days of Yaad, on the summit of Mount Hermon. We will get back to this, so remember this. 5. This is where angels fail, or beings from God, because angels don't need to find roots, herbs and plants, and then give it to woman, on the grounds of breeding. Angels are sons of God, and Neanderthals and Cro-Magnons are both in the fossil record. Obviously Cro-Magnon Rh- blood and Neanderthal blood are not a match unless chemically enhanced, unless you have a better explanation, because if it was irrelevant, then why do the texts say this, and why two races of man, in the book of Genesis? There is only one answer. Let's compare the written texts. Genesis 1:25. God then said, Let us make men under our shadow, as our representatives, and subject to them the fish of the waters and the birds of the sky, and the quadrupeds, as well as the whole of the earth, and every reptile that creeps upon it. So God created men under his own shadow, creating them in the shadow of God, and constituting them male and female. Genesis 2:7. The ever-living God afterwards formed man, from the dust of the ground, and breathed into his nostrils the life of animals, but man became a life-containing soul. Enoch 10:9. Proceed against the half-breeds, and the reprobates, and against the children of whoring, and destroy the children of the watchers from amongst men. Send them one against the other, that they may destroy each other in battle, for they shall not have length of days. And no request that they make of you shall be granted unto their fathers on their behalf, for they hope to live in eternal life, and that each one of them will live 500 years. The Book of Abraham 13:13. Thus did Naamah come to dwell among the sons of Adam, and she grew up before Yahweh in righteousness, and was known for her tender care toward the sick and the unfortunate. Nevertheless, she had not husband, because she was of the forbidden race. 1. Cro-Magnons. 2. Humans. 3. Neanderthals. It is obvious, the Cro-Magnon are the forbidden race. They cannot breed with humans, because their Rh-negative blood type is not a match. However, if humans were in fact chemically enhanced to breed with the Cro-Magnons, could mean that the half-breeds are in fact the Neanderthals themselves. There is no logical explanation. They are twice the size, larger body mass, thicker bones, eyes, teeth, strength, and elongation in the skulls. They have human and Cro-Magnon DNA, but are a complete mystery, more so regarding numbers and fossils. Enoch 8:2. And there arose much wickedness, and they committed whoring, and they were led astray, and became corrupt in all their ways. Shem Yatzer taught enchantments, and root cuttings, armoros, the resolving of enchantments, Barakuel, astrology, Kokabuel, the constellations, Yeskuel, the knowledge of the clouds, Arakuel, the signs of the earth, Shamzuel, the signs of the sun, and Sariel, the course of the moon. And as men perished, they cried, and their cry went up to the Shemaim. Typology. Angels, sons of God, divine beings, do not need to teach astrology, enchantments and the study of signs of the sun, moon and earth, to humans, and even if they did, it takes decades to learn and master, and requires a level of intelligence in the first place. It is obvious, the Cro-Magnons were around 300,000 to 400,000 years before humans, the Ice Age, and it is they who taught humans. Typology. Allegory, the fallen ones, transgressed messengers, planets. Uriel, one of the Kodesh messengers, who is over the world and over Gehenna. Equals Mars, Rephael, one of the Kodesh messengers, who is over the spirits of men. Equals Mercury, Raguel, one of the Kodesh messengers who takes vengeance on the world of the lights. Equals the Sun, Michael, one of the Kodesh messengers, in order that he is appointed over the best part of mankind and over disorder. Equals Saturn, Sarakael, one of the Kodesh messengers, who is appointed over the spirits who sin in the spirit. Equals the Moon, Gabriel, one of the Kodesh messengers, who is over paradise and the serpents and the cherubim. Equals Jupiter, Ramiel, one of the Kodesh messengers, whom Elohim appointed over those who rise. Equals Venus. Typology. We have two sets of names, which can be identified and separated. And these are the names of their leaders: Shem-Latsats, their leader, Arakelba, Ramiel, Kokabuel, Tamaluel, Ramaluel, Daniel, Yeskuel, Barakuel, Asael, Armoros, Batael, Ananael, Sakluel, Shmshapuel, Satael, Juriel, Yamuel, Sariel. 19 leaders, 12 signs of the zodiac plus the 7 planets, or 5 planets and 2 luminaries equals 19, the original constellations, or zodiac. The first of them is Shemyatsa, the second Artakipha, and the third Armoen, the fourth Kokabuel, the fifth Teruel, the sixth Rumyal, the seventh Danuel, the eighth Nikuel, the ninth Barakuel, the 10th Azazuel, the 11th Armoros, the 12th Butteriel, the 13th Busaziel, the 14th Hananuel, the 15th Tuel, and the 16th Semapseuel, the 17th Yetrael, the 18th Dumael, the 19th Juriel, the 20th Ramuel, the 21st Azazuel. 1. These are named twice. 6. Danuel, Kokabuel, Barakuel, Juriel, Armoros, Ramuel, Shemlatsats and Shemyatsa are both the sun. 7. The original antediluvian names of the 7 planets, which we will get back to. 2. These are the original antediluvian names of the 12 signs of the zodiac, as follows: Armoen, Aries, Arakelba, Taurus, Tamaluel, Gemini, Ramaluel, Cancer, Yesquel, Leo, Asael, Virgo, Bataruel, Libra, Ananuel, Scorpio, Sakluel, Sagittarius, Shmshapuel, Capricorn, Sataruel, Aquarius, Yamuel, Pisces. These 7 in particular are the only names repeated, and are chiefs, their original antediluvian aspects, and new good aspects of the coming flood, and new age of Leo, while the remaining 2 is an educated guess, which leaves 14 out of 21, however the positive versus negative aspects of each actually are that do match. Yesquel, the knowledge of the clouds, is Rephael, who is over the spirits of men equals Mercury. Sariel, the course of the moon, is Sarakael, appointed over the spirits whose sin equals moon. Armoros, resolving of enchantments, is Ramuel, appointed over those who rise equals Venus. Kokabuel, the constellations, is Uriel, who is over the world and over Jehanna equals Mars. Barakuel, astrology, is Gabriel, who is over paradise and the serpents and the cherubim equals Jupiter. Shamsuel, the signs of the sun, is Raguel, vengeance, on the world of the lights equals sun. Azazuel, metals, stones, shields, swords, is Michael, appointed over the best part of mankind and over disorder equals Saturn. And when they looked at the daughters of Cain, at their beautiful figures, and at their hands and feet dyed with color, and the tattoos on their faces that ornamented them, the fire of sin was set ablaze in them. Then Satan made them look most beautiful before the sons of Sheth, as he also made the sons of Sheth appear the most handsome in the eyes of the daughters of Cain, so that the daughters of Cain lusted after the sons of Sheth like ravenous beasts, and the sons of Sheth lusted after the daughters of Cain until they committed disgusting and disgraceful acts with them. But after they had fallen into this defilement they returned by the way they had come, and tried to ascend the Kodesh mountain. But they could not, because the stones of that Kodesh mountain were on fire flashing before them, and prevented them so that they could not go up again. And Elohim was angry with them, and turned from them because they had come down from glory, and because of this had lost and forsaken their own purity and innocence, and were fallen into the defilement of sin. Then Elohim sent his word to Yahad, saying, These of your children, whom you once called my children, have broken my commandment, and have gone down to the house of damnation and sin. Send a messenger to those that are left so that they will not go down, and be lost. Then Yahad wept before Yahweh, and asked him for mercy and forgiveness. But he wished that his soul might depart from his body, rather than hear these words from Elohim about his children that went down from the Kodesh mountain. But he followed Elohim's order and preached to them not to go down from that Kodesh mountain, and not to hold relations with the children of Cain. But they did not listen to his message, and they would not obey his advice. After this, another group gathered together and went to look after their brothers, but they perished with them as well. And so it was, company after company, until only a few of them remained. Then Yahud was sickened with grief, and his sickness was such that the day of his death was near. Then he called Hanok his eldest son, and Methuselah Hanok's son, and Lamech the son of Methuselah, and Noah the son of Lamech. And when they came to him he prayed over them and baraked them, and said to them, "You are righteous, innocent sons. Do not go down from this Kodesh mountain, because you have seen your children and your children's children have gone down from this Kodesh mountain, and have alienated themselves from this Kodesh mountain through their reprehensible lust and transgression of Elohim's commandment. But I know, through the power of Elohim, that he will not leave you on this Kodesh mountain. Your children have transgressed his commandment and that of our fathers, which we had received from them. But, my sons, Elohim will take you to a strange land, and you never shall return to see this garden and this Kodesh mountain with your own eyes once again. Therefore, my sons, set your hearts on your own selves, and keep the commandment of Elohim which is with you. And when you go from this Kodesh mountain into a strange land which you do not know, take the body of our father Adam with you, and with it take these 3 precious gifts and offerings, namely, the gold, the incense, and the myrrh, and let them be in the place where the body of our father Adam shall lay. And, my sons, of you who are left, the word of Elohim will come, and when he goes out of this land he shall take with him the body of our father Adam, and shall lay it in the middle of the earth, the place in which deliverance shall be worked out. Then Noah said to him, Who is he of us that shall be left? And Yahud answered, You are he that shall be left. And you shall take the body of our father Adam from the cave, and place it with you in the ark when the flood comes. And your son Shem, who shall come out of your loins, it is he who shall lay the body of our father Adam in the middle of the earth, in the place where salvation shall come. Then Yahud turned to his son Hanok, and said to him, My son, abide in this cave, and minister diligently before the body of our father Adam all the days of your life, and feed your people in righteousness and innocence. And Yahud said no more. His hands went limp, his eyes closed, and he entered into rest like his fathers. His death took place in the 360th year of Noah, and in the 989th year of his own life on the 12th of 9th month on the 6th day. But as Yahud died, tears streamed down his face by reason of his great sorrow, for the children of Sheth, who had fallen in his days. Then Hanok, Methuselah, Lamech and Noah, these 4, wept over him, embalmed him carefully, and then laid him in the cave of treasures. Then they rose and mourned for him 40 days. And when these days of mourning were ended, Hanok, Methuselah, Lamech and Noah remained in sorrow of heart because their father had departed from them and could not see him again. Hanok kept the commandment of Yahud his father, and continued to minister in the cave. Many wonders happened to this man, Hanok, and he also wrote a celebrated book, but those wonders may not be told in this place. Then after this, the children of Sheth, as well as their children and their wives, went astray and fell. And when Hanok, Methuselah, Lamech and Noah saw them, their hearts suffered because of their fall, which filled them with doubt and unbelief. And they wept and sought of Elohim mercy to preserve them, and to bring them out of that wicked generation. Hanok continued in his ministry before Yahweh 385 years, and at the end of that time he became aware through the grace of Elohim, that Elohim intended to remove him from the earth. He then said to his son, O my son, I know that Elohim intends to bring the waters of the flood on the earth, and destroy his creation. And you are the last rulers over the people on this mountain. And I know that not one will be left for you to have children on this Kodesh mountain. Not one of you will rule over the children of his people. No great number of you will be left on this mountain. Hanok also said to them, Watch over your souls, and hold tight to your fear of Elohim and your service to him, and worship him in righteous faith, and serve him in righteousness, innocence and judgment. Worship him in repentance and in purity. When Hangak had ended his commandments to them, Elohim transported him from that mountain to the land of High, to the mansions of the righteous and of the chosen ones, which is the abode of paradise of joy, in light that reaches up to the Shemaim. It is the light that is beyond the light of this world. It is the light of Elohim that fills the whole world and no place can contain. Hangak was in the light of Elohim, and because of this he found himself out of the grasp of death, until Elohim would have him die. Altogether, not one of our fathers or of their children remained on that Kodesh mountain, except those three, Methuselah, Lamech, and Noah. All the rest went down from the mountain and fell into sin with the children of Cain. And they were forbidden to come back to that mountain. And none remained on it but those three men. The Book of Kings 2:23-4. The king also commanded Hilkiah the high priest, and the priests of the second rank, and the guards of the threshold, to bring out from the temple of the ever-living, all the appliance they had made for Baal, and for Asherah, and for all the host of the skies, and to burn them outside Jerusalem, in the fields of Kedron, and carry their rubbish from the house of God. He also stopped the priest of the stars, whom the kings of Judah had appointed, who burned incense at the columns to Baal, and to the sun, and to the moon, and the planets, and to all the army of the skies, and sent the shrines out of the house of the ever-living to the outside of Jerusalem, to the brook Kedron, and burnt them at the brook Kedron, and crushed their ashes, and flung the ashes on the graves of the followers of these people. He also pulled down the houses of prostitution, which were in the house of the ever-living, where the women wove curtains for the shrines. Then he brought all the priests from the towns of Judah, and defiled the columns, where the priests offered incense, from Gaba to Beersheba, and overturned the columns of the demons, which had been erected at the gate by Joshua, the governor of the city, on the left hand of each gate of the town. Nor did he permit those priests to sacrifice to the ever-living at the columns in Jerusalem, unless they ate biscuits among their brethren. He also defiled the furnace in the valley of the sons of Kinnon, where they passed their sons and daughters through the fire to Moloch, and destroyed the horses that the kings of Judah had dedicated to the sun, at the entry of the temple of the ever-living, near the chamber of Nathan Melch the eunuch, who was superintendent of the horses and the chariots of the sun, which he burnt with fire, and the altars also that were upon the embankment of the aqueduct of Ahats, which the kings of Judah had made. The Book of Kings 5:9. And God gave to Solomon very great wisdom, and understanding, and wide intelligence, like the sand on the seashore. For Solomon's scientific knowledge was more extensive than the science of all the Beni Kedem, and than all the science of the Mitzrayim. He knew more than all men, of the orbits, of the planets, of the origination of light, and fixed sustaining systems, and the results of the revolving spheres. The Book of Kings 2:11-18. Jehu afterwards assembled the people, and said to them, Ahab served Baal a little. Jehu will serve him much. Therefore, now, all you preachers of Baal, all you servants of him, and all his priests, come to me, every man in his station, to make with me a big sacrifice to Baal. Everyone who is not in his station will offer an insult to Jehu. But Jehu did it cunningly to destroy those servants of Baal. Therefore, Jehu said, proclaim an assembly to Baal. They accordingly proclaimed one, and Jehu sent through all Israel, and all the servants of Baal came. There was not a single one who did not come, and went to the temple of Baal, and filled the temple of Baal all over. He then said to the superintendent of the wardrobe, bring out uniforms for all the ministers of Baal. And he brought the uniforms out. Then Jehu and Jonadab ben Rechab came to the temple of Baal, and he said to the ministers of Baal, Search, and examine, for fear there should be among you any ministers of Jehovah, for I will expel all except the ministers of Baal. Then they entered, and made sacrifices, and burnt offerings, but Jehu had chosen for himself outside 80 men and said, The man who allows one of these fellows, whom I have prepared for your hands, to escape, his life shall be for his. So when they had finished making the burnt offering, Jehu commanded the infantry, and their officers, Advance. Charge. Let not a man come out. Then the infantry, and their officers, charged with the sword, and went to the sanctuary of the temple of Baal, and they brought out the columns of the temple of Baal, and fired them, and threw down the temple of Baal, and turned it into a dunghill, to this day. Thus Jehu swept Baal from Israel. Ezekiel 8:16. Then he took me to the inner court of the house of the ever-living, and I saw before the temple of the ever-living, between the porch and the altar, about 25 persons, with their back towards the temple of the ever-living, and their faces towards the east, and they were worshipping the eastern sun. And on the 8th day, when the child was circumcised, he was covered that he became as other men, except that his hair remained white, and they called his name Noah, which by interpretation is comfort, because Lamech said, My heart is comforted to know that my seed shall be preserved through the great flood. And the child grew and waxed strong in wisdom, and mighty in the power of the Kahuna, for he was initiated into the order of the ancients in his childhood, and learned the rites and ordinances and the powers of the Kahuna, with the signs and tokens and key words, wherewith he could call upon the powers of the Shemaim to combat the forces of the adversary. When Ham, the son of Noah, entered the tent, he saw his father sleeping naked upon his bed with the sacred garments, which had been given to Adam in the Garden of Eden, laying nearby. Ham knew that he and his posterity could not bear the Kahuna, because of the curse of Cain which was upon them, and knowing there was great power in the sacred garments, he stole them from his father Noah, and hurried to his tents. Before the death of Ham, the sacred garments were given secretly by him to his son Cush. Cush also kept them hidden, and in his old age gave them unto his son Nimrod. And when Nimrod was 20 years of age, he put on the garments, and he derived great strength and power from them. Moreover, Nimrod was instructed in all the secrets of the evil combination by his father. Wherefore, Nimrod became a mighty man among the sons of men, and established his reign, and grew stronger and stronger in wickedness, after the order of the secret combination, which was from the beginning. Moreover, Nimrod was a man of mighty power, for he was master Mahan, and had in his hands the secrets of the ancients, as they had come down from Cain, wherein he knew the words of power, and the signs for using them, and he had the Kodesh garments, which had been given unto Adam in the garden, in which was great power. All of this power did Nimrod use to get gain after the manner of the secret combination. The legacy of Cain continues.